All right, everyone. It's gotten to the point where people are beginning to notice that there's something deeply suspicious about the fact that Joe Biden is not really doing pressers with question and answer sessions, because he's the first president in 100 years not to do any in his first, 50 days in office or whatever the fuck it is now, in his honkler office. First president in 100 years to do that. Reagan had one appearance that he made. I think Trump had 4 or 5, actually. But typically, they give people an update, especially during your sweetheart period. During that first 100 days, if you're reasonably competent, that's when most of the questions aren't going to be hardballs. You're going to have higher approval in general. Even push polling aside, Biden's approval is not going to go anywhere but down from here, presumably. You've still got economic problems. You've got a pandemic. You've got a worsening world diplomatic situation. And he keeps doing stupid shit because he's stupid. It's called a sweetheart period. That first 100 days roughly in office, the MSM partially leaves you alone. Unless you're Trump, then they give you a wall of propaganda from day one. But Biden is literally Hidebiden. He doesn't do anything. I find it so funny. The cognitive dissonance kicks in, and if you confront people about this, and you're like, well, Biden hasn't given a presser. He's not talking to anybody. He's not taking any questions. And they very visibly end his White House briefing feeds before he can do the question and answer. He's sitting there mumbling to Nancy Pelosi, asking her if he's supposed to answer questions, and then just stares off to the side as they end it. People are beginning to notice that that's a little bit odd, but the cognitive dissonance kicks in with the Biden fans, the 10 of them that actually exist, that aren't bots on Twitter and shit, and they're like, well, Jen Psaki gives pressers, that's fine. We've got what's called a White House spokeswoman. Yeah, okay, and again, shoe on the other foot. Imagine that it were Donald Trump, and he basically disappeared and didn't want to talk to anyone. They'd say, well, he's being a tyrant. He doesn't want to take hard questions. Biden doesn't either, and here's why. It's very obvious. It's plain as day unless you're a lemming and you actually believe that he's capable of leadership. He's not well-spoken because he's demented. That's why he speaks from a teleprompter every time he speaks. They don't even allow him to go out in public and mill about with people in the sense that a president typically is expected to do. Typically, and they use the pandemic as an excuse for this, well, things are different now. You got to socially distance and shit. You don't have to literally hide from the public you supposedly represent because there's a pandemic. You can do an all-digital conference if you want. You can just have a computer screen with Biden on it and other people behind their computers on a goddamn Zoom call if you want. There's literally no legitimate reason to even have in-person White House press briefings to begin with. I noticed that they don't have any problem with literally any other Biden official standing in as a proxy for him, not just the White House press secretary. Why is it that he is so uniquely incapable of answering the questions from the press? Now, to their very big discredit, very few of them care. They don't expect to ask questions. They don't seem interested in asking the question about question answering. I would think if I was an actual journalist, I'd say, isn't this getting a little bit much here? It's almost going on 2 months and the dude hasn't even let me ask him a fucking question. Well, then why even have a White House press corps? I understand about having a spokeswoman, having proxies. Kamala can come out and talk to them or whatever. That's fine, but they're not the president. Optically, it's just different. And it's a tacit admission that the man is demented and inept. The other problem is it would be very, very, very bad for Biden if he had to actually explain some of his policies. They might ask him about erasing women. They might ask him about why is it that the Pentagon, which he forgot the name of literally 2 days ago, why is it that the Pentagon has now come out openly and said, hey, yeah, NATO's planning to put more troops in Iraq. Maybe we'll follow suit. Maybe we won't. Are you actually going to withdraw from Afghanistan in May as our agreement with the Afghanistan government? Well, Corn Pop's a bad dude. If he starts blowing himself up, I don't know if we can withdraw. Corn Pop wants all the opium for himself. He might say bizarre shit, because he's literally done this even when reading a teleprompter and not being questioned. He might get into a fight with the press corps. He's done this before. He's literally lashed out at people that are part of his actual captive audience. Love the dude. Absolutely support him. He sparred with MSNBC reporters before. These networks won't even allow their journos to question this situation. It's sort of like, you remember when there's like a fucking CNN crew in front of the burning Wendy's in Ferguson or Kenosha or something. They'll go, it's a mostly peaceful protest here, and then they get assaulted and people are throwing rocks through the windows and shit like that. And it's like, Are you actually, you're supposedly a journalist, right? Are you actually ever going to do journalism? It doesn't look like you are. It looks more like you're state media. Or that your parent firms are co-opting or co-opted with Biden to the degree that they sent out an email saying, don't ask Biden any hard questions because the dude literally can't answer you. The dude will go crazy. He'll have a malfunction, and he'll think that you're wheedling at him. He'll get grumpy because he's got Alzheimer's, and people with Alzheimer's can have this happen, and he'll randomly lash out. They're probably going to try to hide him for his entire presidency. And considering the rate of cognitive decline that you can literally see on a weekly goddamn basis, it's worse now than it was on the first day of his term. It was worse then than when he entered the primaries. It was worse then than months before when he was speculating about maybe entering the primaries. Over the course of about a year, Biden's mental function has demonstrably declined. I hate to say it, but considering the rate at which it's declining, he doesn't have 4 years. He will be a vegetable within 2. I do not believe that Joe Biden will still be the honkler president-in-chief. I do not believe he will be by the end of 2024. I'm doubting whether it would be even by the midterms. I'm thinking that there are a lot of Democrats who want to keep him in there for a year. He's sort of the methodology to get Kamala Harris in there anyway. Again, she's not going to be in charge. She's a figurehead, but they wanted my first female president of color and stupid shit like that. I think he was the Trojan horse to get her in there because she never could have won on her own. And by the way, her approval will be abysmal by the end of her term. And I don't believe she'd be reelected, by the way. Be interesting. First president, female president of color, not even an elected official, just appointed to that position as having been VP because an old white dude with dementia had to resign or something. I think the Democrats are going to pressure him to leave. I think they will try to force him to resign, or they will invoke the Constitution and remove him from office for incapacity. I think that they're going to do that because I don't think they want him to be the standard bearer during the midterms because he can't campaign. If he did, it would be a raging embarrassment. Dude, again, at that point, would be 80 years old. Kind of getting up there towards Strom Thurmond territory. I think that they'll try to kick him aside. That's about all. Peace out.